I'm walking my talk here, so I'm following my inner directives. And what I've been shown is that it's really important to support those of you committed to healing, however that looks, however you're choosing to engage with it, and to help you leverage your efforts as part of this renaissance. Because what will happen, I'm being shown now, is like it starts to build on itself, and then it really gets some momentum. And it shifts. It goes exponential in terms of its impacts and outcomes. Hey, welcome to Multidimensional You. I'm Aisha Love. Really excited to announce a 3-part series on something I'm calling the Healing Renaissance. Let's dive right in. What am I talking about? We're gonna zoom way out here in a minute and give you a much larger perspective, but I'm sure it has escaped no one's attention, especially those of you here in this conversation about awakening to a larger multidimensional reality, that something is afoot. Nothing is quite as it seems. Post-pandemic, we just didn't snap back to the way things used to be. And a lot of people are feeling very unmoored, ungrounded, like they can't quite grasp reality the same way. And maybe the same kind of go-to things are just not providing the same level of interest, fulfillment. They're feeling potentially more hollow. The distortion in a lot of our media and entertainment is making itself known to us. We're just becoming much more clear about that. The polarity dramas are amping up, and you can come in and out of those if you want to, but I think most of you who are still with me at this point are really interested in transcending a lot of drama and are instead looking for new doors to open. So to that end, before we go even deeper into this subject, how did the daily grounding and clearing meditation challenge go for you all? Leave your comments on the daily meditation. It's always pinned up at the top of the YouTube channel. Maybe send in your before and after pics if you did those. These are some of the tools we can be using. And believe me, we're going to be needing to use all of our tools going forward. So the commitment to psychic hygiene and the practice thereof is super important. Now, I know some of you maybe have your own modalities. I certainly do. I do a lot of Reiki. So maybe those of you there, I'll just stay right there. Can you feel that? Those of you in the field, those of you with experience in the field, there we go. Whew. This is how I clear myself these days. So I'm retuning, re-clearing, shifting things out, realigning, shifting my templates, and then shifting, sometimes often like a whole key change. I'm not gonna stop until it finishes. There we go. So interesting that you get to see this. You may have seen me do light language, and there we go, in the past. That's my quick, under 30-second, do it while I'm driving, any time of the day to re-key myself. So that's just an example for you to understand that just because one modality worked at a certain point doesn't mean that you'll always have to do a 15-minute meditation. Initially, we have to because our energy centers are so gunked up and so stagnant and so blocked. But once you get to a certain point, it's really just a matter of refinement. So it's pretty cool, huh? And if you didn't get to the challenge or you let it drop, it's just pick it back up and you can start today and do it for 7 days straight. Just as a reminder, we have to be using our tools these days and what is possible. So I hope by me sharing, creating that challenge, thanks for getting us over the 100,000 view mark. That's pretty exciting that many people are taking their psychic hygiene this seriously. You might also notice I've got my kitties showing up. But the element of wind is very present today. I'm very committed to filming outside for a variety of reasons, one of which is that we've removed ourselves so much from an interplay with some of the, let's just say, least co-opted spaces available to us. And that would be the natural environment, and that there's this interplay that can happen with different elements that show up. And today wind is activation, and it's moving energy. And this is exactly what the Healing Renaissance is about, and that we're all being called into. So old, stuck, stagnant energy is getting moved. So thank you to the wind element for being present today. So do you see the reframe that is available to us, that wind is not some nuisance that's going to mess with our video, and we're tempted to say, I hear wind on the video, that needs to go away. No. We're actually inviting that in, and working also with, there are interdimensional and kind of natural elemental consciousness that's doesn't have form in the way that we do, but that can very much interplay with us and communicate and develop relationship in the way that we used to have, and very few populations on the planet have maintained. We've done that we've excluded that much to our own detriment. So the Healing Renaissance is about bringing back in all of our different modalities and therapies that are available to us. So to that end, instead of going to the 40,000 foot level of what's going on first, let me start by sharing something that came through in one of the client sessions I did when I opened up client sessions a couple weeks ago. And this really simultaneously kind of cracked me up, but also kind of blew my mind, right? Because anytime you're introduced to a more evolved galactic civilization, our big brother, big sister program, I like to call it, you begin to recognize that the constructs that we're dealing with here don't necessarily have to be the truth of all that is, right? And that there are other truths, there are other ways of doing reality that are becoming available to us through the inner tech transfer of our own multidimensional selves, and by being able to be connected to this larger multidimensional neighborhood that we are a part of. And that is all unrolling as we speak. So this is a perspective from, let's see, this specific group was a confederation of 7 Syrian planets that work together. As I talk about them, my heart chakra just goes whoosh, because you may feel that too. It's the love that group of beings of consciousness, and they're holding the consciousness for an entire planet, hold for how they feel and they see almost like their baby sister, Earth. You feel that, don't you? They kept interrupting me every time I wanted to say healer or healing, and kept showing me and conveying to me that they have no such construct in their culture, because every life form, every sentient consciousness is committed to harmony. So if conflict arises in that very moment, because of the normalization and dedication to harmony and restoring harmony and maintaining harmony as an understanding that that's what creates the underlying energetic foundation for a thriving civilization, they have no need of healers as such in the way that we refer to them here. And so what this did for me was it really, at first kind of cracked me up, and, I kept having to be like, but I want to go down that neural net. That's what we do. That's the construct. And then I had to stop and kind of back up and go, wait a minute. Oh, wow. There's a whole nother level of reality that is possible here. There's a whole nother paradigm. And I think this is a really helpful perspective for us to have, because we can get almost too lost in the healing and forget what the end outcome was supposed to be in the first place. And so we can get too attached to ritual, to dogma, to protocol, and forget that, wait a minute, it's in the mechanism of restoring harmony that we are achieving our end. Not in the way that we did that, but the underlying commitment, the mechanism that actually restores harmony, whether that's removing the origin of dis-ease in the physical body, the level of the emotions, the spiritual body, right? You get my point here. So imagine a civilization, a planet that was so committed to harmony that it precluded the need for emergency healers of any kind. And what an invitation into a new set of possibilities. Now, here on planet Earth, I think, as we well know, the opposite has been normalized. I used to have a bumper sticker, and I didn't even begin to understand the full import of why it so resonated with me, but it was subvert the dominant paradigm. And now I understand. I like to say, anything in this reality, you can pretty much almost flip it upside down, and then you have a truer, original, before distortion, before separation, before disconnection experience of who we all really actually are, whether that's at the individual or collective level. So what an invitation for us to consider what is possible. And then if we could reverse engineer, how would we get there? Well, the normalized culture of avoiding our shadow through projection, deflection, defending, blaming, all of that, if that is now coming into the mainstream as subjects that we're talking about in terms of exiled aspects and the importance of clearing shame down through ancestral lines, and even the introduction of psychedelics into therapy to help resolve permanently the effects of trauma. These are all really encouraging signs to me that the human collective is making this U-turn out of a disharmonic and a diseased state and committing to restoring a greater sense of harmony that will ultimately make all the difference in terms of whether, frankly, we survive as a species or not in this current form and in this situation. Again, much bigger galactic story. I won't go into that because I just feel like, that will be a separate series when the time is right, but it can be a distraction. It can be like too much mental information. And what I'm being directed to do is really support the healing renaissance and all of those of you who feel called to participate in it, whether you're working, just as an individual as yourself, which by the way is always the most powerful contribution you can make, right? Before we run out and try to heal everybody else, we got to be at least doing it in tandem with everyone, right? And put your hand up if you've been in several years of massive deconstruction and shadow work at entirely new levels, right? I've been talking about all of that for years, and I just laugh because it's like, wow, there's always another level, right? Which is a good thing. It's a good thing. It's almost like the further up the spiral home you go, the more you're pulling up out of, the dredges and like excavating with yourself. I heard somebody recently say, be careful about wanting a Kundalini awakening because you don't understand that with that comes everything gets brought into the light. So we have inherited a culture of, let's not look at things, but that is all coming down now, mainly because of the energetic shifting. So let's move right into that 40,000 foot level, or, well beyond the big zoom out picture of what's going on here, before we kind of come back in terms of what does this mean for you and I on the daily, and in terms of our lives, our professions, and life direction. Okay, so if healing from a Syrian healing collective perspective is the restoration of harmony, if we zoom further out, this entire section of the multiverse has been in peril, a little bit troubled to say the least, for quite a long time, very, very long time. We are in this extraordinary time of coming up and out of a state of descension and fragmentation. You've heard me talk about it before, and coming home into greater coherence, wholeness, and unity within ourselves, within our collectives, within entire galaxies, and just keep going out all the way home to the one. And this is what you hear near-death experiencers speaking about in great detail, in great volume now. Just go to YouTube and look for an NDE, and you will see there are so many channels that have sprung up and hundreds of interviews and testimonials from people who've made this transit and then go home and then come back with the wisdom, the remembering to share. Not by accident, obviously, during this time. So there is this much bigger process. In terms of multidimensional physics, we could just say a reclamation, a reconnection, and a rise. I'm shying away from the term ascension just because it has a lot of religious baggage that may or may not be accurate, right? There's some truth, but then a lot of distortion. I'd like to refer to it in just terms of physics, and the multidimensional physics are coming back into our awareness. You've heard me talk about them quite a bit, whether I'm working with an individual, a portal or gate system, the grid lines on the planet. The idea is that so much of what is kind of in a state of disrepair, disconnection, is being repaired now. Okay, I'm lucky enough I get to work with some of the founders of the Matrix. They care so much about this part of living creation. I get to see Source and feel Source be so excited when entire groups come home. It's a really amazing job to be a multidimensional field agent. So I'm on the ground doing this. I've done a ton here on the Cherokee National Lands. I was in the Black Mountains before in North Carolina, tons of work in Montana, traveling the world, Egypt, France, tons of work in France, right? And there's a much bigger story about why I'm traveling to all of these places that involve stargates and like really cool stuff that could be like an entire Marvel movie. But what I really want to convey is that I'm really excited because what I'm seeing from the field is that there is this cross-species, cross-interdimensionals, cross-form, cross-dimension commitment to a reconnection and restoration of this entire sector. So it's a really exciting time to be embodied with the human template and all that we have access to. And that's the invitation that's really coming from the field right now, is do not underestimate what you as a human have access to from within your own multidimensional templates via inner tech transfer with more evolved, aspects of yourself in other star systems who are more than happy to share, what their civilization and what that part of your consciousness animating that form gets to experience there, so that's what I'm feeling from the field, is this like cross-pollination and this knowledge sharing. There's so much energy around this and so much excitement. It's almost like, oh my gosh, our brothers and sisters or our other aspects in human form are waking up and they are available for what we can offer them. You and I both know how exciting it is when like somebody maybe in your family or your friend circle has been like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, nope, arm's length, like, don't talk to me, this is weird. And all of a sudden they're going through this process right now of like, hey, and this and that, and they're connecting dots and you're like, yeah. And like, woohoo, here you come too, right? So that's happening as well from our larger galactic big brothers and sisters. They're like, I can feel it in the field. Maybe you can too. They're just really excited. And this is the way to shift this reality from the inside out. Okay. So when I talk healing renaissance, I'm talking about this is all coming from within, right? We're not looking for an external authority to tell us what is and is not working. Next video in the series, we're going to talk about the war on subjectivity and the huge blind spot that a lot of our old approaches to healing, I use that term lightly, in these arenas. We'll be talking more about that. So if healing is a restoration of harmony and a reconnection out of a state of fragmentation, then what does that look like? This is the exciting moment, because using our free will, we get to choose what we want to explore and what we want to pioneer and innovate during these times. And like I just said, this isn't in any textbook. It's not in any, peer-reviewed study, and it's not in our recent history books. So the invitation coming through the field is to put ourselves in the shoes of the people that lived through the Renaissance a few hundred years ago and now recognize, wait a minute, we're in one right now. And so the extent to which we decide we want to open these inner doors and pioneer new modalities and look for them and discover them and uncover them in new and novel ways and innovate and pioneer is going to determine the world that our children and our grandchildren inherit. So I don't know about you, but I was taught to leave a place like same or better than you found it. And that ethic is very strong and is in play big time in this conversation. So I know some of you may be feeling like, really, we've been waiting, I don't know, and you're still hanging back, might still, be mostly in the spiritual closet, so to speak. But so let me tell you something that was shown to me on one of my, I think it was an emanation. Yeah, it was what my emanation group called. And this kind of blew my mind. And it might blow your mind, and it's probably going to resonate because a lot of you are super tuned in and from your own direct experience how it works when you get guided. And then with hindsight, you realize, wow, if I hadn't followed that guidance, yikes, right? If I hadn't followed those inner directives. What I was shown is that we are now in a post-disclosure world about a larger multidimensional reality. It's got the monikers of UFOs and aliens, right? But once you open that door, the much bigger doors of like, well, wait a minute, well, who are they? Where are they from? And how do they have advanced technology? And like all the questions are able to start to come through. And all the like, why weren't we told? And where has this been my whole life? And I had my own experiences and was gaslit for them. And, we were going to have to process all that sense of betrayal that I went through 14 years ago. Like, the scientific paradigm, I thought it had it all, together. Oh, maybe not. So what I was shown in that group call is this. Events have already occurred. Okay, we pull out of linear time and space. We know that all time is occurring simultaneously. So when certain big events for a human race collective like ours on this planet occur, what I was shown is that just like the research that came out, I think it was in the journal Nature in 2007, showed that the brain actually registers an event before we experience it by a fraction of a second. And just take a moment to let that sink in. So normally you would touch something and then it registers in the brain, right? Or maybe even just at the same time. No. Right before you touch is when the brain registers it. So it's actually, there's that inversion formula again, right? So what we were told, this was a couple of weeks ago, is that events have already occurred. And so this is why it's all hands on deck and why so many of us are being called to get into position or shift or tweak or expand the position and the commitment to this healing renaissance, is because everyone else's higher selves are registering this. Their conscious mind isn't, but whatever part of their soul structure is here to help keep them safe, move them in the right direction, is hard at work right now, so to speak. Those who are not sticking around for this, they're out. So a lot of you are watching a lot of people just leave. They're like, nope, this was not part of my pre-birth planning. You guys enjoy the ride. Good luck. We'll be cheering you on from the other side. But if you're still here, right? If we're still here, just pay attention. Like, maybe you yourself have experienced this, or you're watching other people. Geographic moves, change of jobs, refocusing careers, refocusing your company's mission. And a lot of it is all in this direction towards healing. Okay. Now, disclaimer, if you've been putting this off, I wouldn't do that. That's all I'll say about that. So back to my earlier point about maybe some of your circle that were the diehard skeptics are now coming to you with their revelations, and you're kind of chuckling to yourself. This would be why. Okay. In order to keep, let's be really frank, the species viable and going, we have to be able to navigate these times with some level of stability. And that's a huge piece of many of our roles, is to find our own inner harmony, restore that, go through our own processes so that we can hold some level of stability for those who are following us. And what I'm being shown right now is cut yourself some slack, because you may have gotten used to that role in the past and you're undergoing another level of deconstruction. And that's all by design, and it's all okay. And you do need to let go of some of the old way and the old role, because there is some distortion in that, is what I'm being shown. And I'm listening, and I can see that. Yeah, I can see that for myself. So I'm sure many of you can apply that for yourselves as well. So trust the deconstruction, as painful as it might be. I know. And in fact, that's a huge piece of it, is like being willing to let yourself feel and grieve in real time, and take the time you need, and don't put it off, because that's not a commitment to harmony, is it? And then that delicate balance of not getting caught in a back eddy, doing what you need to do in real time, so that then you can move back out with even greater coherence and strength. And what I'm being shown now is just that process alone is informing the field and the template, so that it makes it much more available and normalizes it for others. Because we're all watching one another. We're all informing one another. Here comes the wind. So let's just take a moment and let the wind come on through. And just let some stuff go that you're ready to let go of. Maybe you've been white knuckling it and clinging on to old ways. Just, there you go. Let it go out on the wind. There have been a lot of storms coming through here in eastern Oklahoma, and I've been so grateful for them, because the energy that moves through with these storms versus just hot, stagnant summer air is really helpful. Not only for my own process, but for a lot of the work that's been done here. while we're letting the wind work her magic, story time. As I did some of my field work about a month ago, I drove into across the border off Cherokee land into eastern Arkansas. And immediately before I could diagnose anything, do anything, I heard from the astral, don't bother with us. We're not worth your time. It was this real downtrodden kind of like, whoa. So, of course, the templates shifted. There was a lot of solar plexus issues, just a lot of the work happened so fast, it's hard to even keep up with it. But that's the kind of stagnant energy we're talking about, the non-deserving, right? And that's a back eddy. That's a back eddy, keeping ourselves in the back eddy of shame, of guilt, of low self-worth that came down the ancestral line. And newsflash, you get to shake that up. You get to bring in the light. You get to shift that. You don't have to just pass that down to your children and the next generation. I hear a lot of questions in the field about what's all the other work? What's the work? The other things I can share with you are that what's really cool to watch is that, and this tracks with everything else that we're talking about and what we're seeing, is that the ancestors of the land of a lot of indigenous populations, their higher self collectives are coming into what you might call like the mid dimensions and infusing those. So what we would consider our ancestors and that we're always going to, just they themselves went up a level through the displacement of the higher self, one self set of constructs. Geometries are unbelievable to perceive. They're so beautiful. So across the board, there's kind of this, reaching down in from the greater parts of our structure to retrieve and kind of help pull up that which wants to come up. Free will choice will always be honored if it doesn't want to be pulled up. Some of it is getting nasty. Let's speak to that, because I know some of you are wondering about that. Some of the energy is getting very nasty, very dark, because it's on the run and it's used to having its way, kind of like the kid that's been the playground bully for the longest time, and now things are shifting. They're getting desperate to maintain their role and identity. But what I can tell you is that some of them are not overriding their free will, just giving them more free will to choose from, choosing to go home. The little people were disappointed. They thought they were going to have some big showdown, and I'm like, nope, they're just offering them more choice and they're making different choices. For the energies that are not playing nice, so to speak, there is kind of this effort to just trash everything on the way out, pull down as much as they can while they can. That's some pretty dark stuff. And this is also why I feel called to support clinicians and mental health professionals, because I know some of you are starting to see this. It's freaking you out. You don't know what to do about it. We can address some of that. And then the other thing I can report is that some of those energies have gotten to witness a return through complete fragmentation, so a complete loss of their differentiated evolutionary experience, sometimes referred to as cosmic space dust return. So that's been kind of, it's like, all right, you chose your way, here's what can happen. And I have seen that really inform others, almost like when, you're dealing with kids who are like, no, and then you actually hold a consequence and they're like, oh crap, they mean business, right? So there's a lot going on there, and field agents like myself are working on a lot of that, right? Another thing I want to touch on is a lot of us sometimes feel like this like martyr complex of like, how can I do enough? How will it ever be enough? One individual isn't meant to do it all. We came in as an entire team, and we all have complementary skills. And so I'm doing my work, you're doing yours, or you're finally answering the call to do yours, your version of it. But just know that there's this beautiful complementary like symphony of response to all of the help that has been requested on this planet, and even beyond, because some of my work goes beyond here. Okay, so just to get back to the original point after some story time, the point that's really trying to make itself known right now through this channel is that any sort of hangups you have of being thought of as weird for changing professions or evolving your profession into the more subjective, and we'll get more. I'll give you lots of armaments for what's actually going on, so that you can deal with your own inner skeptic and the externalized skeptic as well, and let yourself really move through this evolution. If you're still feeling any of that, just know that because of events already happening and higher selves registering them, there is an openness that has never occurred in recent history to what you have to offer. In terms of even just a conversation, you don't have to be a professional healer per se, right? Refer to our beautiful Syrian collective that, they just have that as a matter of course. So whether it's a conversation with someone, or you really want to take your profession in a new direction and expand it, there will be much less resistance than you think there will be. And facing the resistance is part of your own healing journey. In summation, really important to follow those inner directives during these times, whether it's just, you making a move, but really in the context of the healing renaissance, it's about acting on the inspiration that you're getting. Even though it might seem like risky, or I don't know about that, or that's out of my comfort zone, or I'm not sure if that will work, it doesn't matter. Like, just move through all of that as part of your own commitment to honoring what you're being given and gifted, quite frankly, right? And what are you going to do with that? Are you going to offer that to the world or sit on it? I'm walking my talk here, so I'm following my inner directives. And what I've been shown is that it's really important to support those of you committed to healing, however that looks, however you're choosing to engage with it, and to help you leverage your efforts as part of this renaissance. Because what will happen, I'm being shown now, is like it starts to build on itself, and then it really gets some momentum. And it shifts, it goes exponential in terms of its impacts and outcomes. So in the next month or so, what you'll see are a few things. One, I am rebooting the activation track of the emergence experience. That track, it's year 2, is dedicated towards the metaphysicians, okay? And getting you all to the level you're being called to go to. So whether this is really for advanced beginners and intermediate metaphysicians, and there's something more, and it might not be someone else's modality, you feel called, there's something within me that wants to, emerge, hence the name of the program. So that application will be opening soon. If you want to get a jump on that, you can write into Sarah, info@multidimensionalu.com. She'll be happy to send you the application. Okay, number 2, I will be offering a virtual clinic on the use of healing vibronics in collaboration with our Syrian collective. This is going to be exactly what I've been teaching for years, which is when we're multidimensional, we can tap our own inner aspects. So we all have, a Syrian aspect, an Andromedan aspect, et cetera, and tapping that. So now I'm getting interrupted right now. Some of you are from the soul collectives from the Syrian system. In fact, many of you are. And so this, do you feel that? It's going to feel like coming home to you. And it's really designed, again, whether you're just interested in having a new level of conversations with people, or you're really going to take your own metaphysical practice to the next level, to inner resource these new tools. It'll be really interesting to see what they bring through. And I can feel that we also are going to get some modalities and some shifts from beyond form, actually, and beyond any system and any galaxy. So that'll be fun. But mainly it is we've got Syrians that a lot of them are cetaceans. So they're really expert at vibration and sound healing. And what I'm being told, a lot of it is not audible sound. It's vibration coming from a different level of our plasmic structure, and from them directly themselves. Just in the way that Confederation of Planets is helping Earth as a younger, sibling, making her way. We have, and I can feel, maybe you can feel their love, this incredible group wanting to help us at this time. And that's on August 8th, through the Lionsgate portal. It just feels like it's a really powerful time to bring these through. So many of you know when you're being called, you'll feel the energetic signature. And then if you're newer to this and you're like, oh, I don't know if I'm being called, I would say if you haven't done the daily grounding and clearing meditation challenge, do that, get yourself nice and clear, and then just sit with that question in meditation. Am I feeling called? Could I benefit from this? And see what you get. A lot of the awakening track of emergence really helps clear out And that's always available on the site. It really helps clear out all the indecision and lack of clarity so that you can make decisions so much more efficiently. Okay, and then finally, I have been called to create a new program for clinicians, mental health practitioners. I have an idea of what's involved, but what I'd really like is your input. For those of you practicing in the field of therapy, I would really like to hear from you what would benefit you. And I'll give you something to react to in terms of, what the features are of this. I've done a little bit of research so far and it's landed pretty well, but I just can tell it feels like there's something missing to what I've been considering putting out there and offering you all. So let's see what resonates for you. Because again, I know many of you are dealing with a feeling of overwhelm because the amount of people in crisis now has tripled. And in your own personal life, there may be people, you may be going through your own crisis event. How do we do this in a way where we're still, what I was saying earlier, we're honoring our own process, but we're also able to help walk others through? Because whether you understand it or not, what I'm being shown is that so many of you, just based on your soul experience, not your professional experience, soul experience, are very well suited to be able to help other people through these destabilizing times, no matter what's going on in your personal life. In fact, I'm being shown, because of what's going on in your personal life, and that your deconstruction events make you more human in the eyes of the people that you're trying to help. So that simpatico and that resonance puts you in this together. We're in this together. And then the shifts can be so much greater. A lot of what people are dealing with is resistance to the deconstruction. I shouldn't have to be living through this. I shouldn't do this. There's shame. Why did this fall apart, et cetera, et cetera. So the extent to which you can model healthy deconstruction, now it all makes sense what you've been going through, doesn't it? And that's what we're all doing here. We're all helping each other, right? Walking each other home. You're like, I think it's this way. Oh, wait, I took the wrong trail. Don't go down that one. Yeah, with hindsight, my source self awakening, remembering that I went through last year and had to, completely retreat to be able to do that and let go of so much. It makes a lot of sense now, doesn't it? In the context of stabilizing the fields, showing a different way, being vulnerable, not clinging on to the way we used to do it, no matter what, because that's where we get a sense of control, surrender, allowing. So in summary, we're going to need all of our tools. We already do need all of our tools. We actually just need to use them, and the curiosity and the passion to go inside of ourselves within our multidimensional structure and pioneer and innovate new ones and offer them to the world. Having the courage to offer them to the world. And so your passion, our passion for healing, transformation, evolution, human potential is what is going to see us through these times. And as long as we can keep in mind that all of the disruption and deconstruction is serving that purpose, we're going to be fine. We're going to be more than fine. We're actually going to begin to really thrive. Even in the midst of the chaos and even in the midst of the pain, I'm sure all of you at one point or another have had that experience of what felt like a good cry. Seems like a paradox in a culture that has, suppressed the emotional experience for so long, but we got to let it flow. And so it's our commitment to keeping that mindset that is going to make all the difference at this time. And it's going to help us remember that deconstruction is a net positive experience that is allowing something new to emerge. And the last thing I'd just like to remind us all was that message that I specifically went to the Stargate up and outside of Flagstaff, Arizona, out in the painted desert. I was called out there. It's like there's a message. Humanity has a message for itself. It's trying to get through to itself from its higher remembering. And that is that love is our birthright, not fear. So the extent to which we use our free will choice to reframe narratives into love and choose love over fear in all circumstances, everywhere, no matter what the topic is, you're forgetting. What are you contributing? Did you just send a huge pulse of fear out into the field? Ripples on a pond. Eventually it's going to come back and give you more to be afraid about, right? Or are you using your considerable open heart, free will choice to reframe the narrative into choosing love, not fear? That reframe is an evolutionary advantage. And if we don't use it, I don't know that we're going to fare so well. Because, as you well know, how we choose to see the world shapes the world. All right, if this video helped you, please leave a comment below, like it, share it. I do feel like this message is supposed to get out to a lot more people. And just remember, keep breathing, keep doing your psychic hygiene, and I love you all.